So, as I said before, sitting under all these gold records and platinum records and whatnot in the Doors recording company with Robbie Krieger, no less. This is pretty surreal. So I'm very glad you came down and granted us the time.
Oh, well, no problem. For Canada, any day of the week I would come down.
For Canada, really?
Yeah, and you know what? We just, speaking of platinum and stuff, what do we just get, a diamond? We just got a diamond record, which means 10 million records of the Doors album, first Doors album.
Of the first Doors album.
Right.
And I think probably from here, we could probably see where the original first billboard was.
Yeah, that's right.
With the first Doors album in that.
First board, our billboard was, it was the first rock and roll billboard.
I know.
Actually, it wasn't. It was the second, because Love had Love, Arthur Lee and Love, they had a billboard before we did, and we were really mad about that. Yeah, but Elektra Records was our label at the time, and they were a brand new label for rock and roll. They'd done folk music mainly, and so they wanted to do something different, and they figured Billboard on Sunset. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then 6 years later, there was another one for LA Woman.
Right.
And sometimes I find it absolutely crazy to think that within those 6 years, you guys managed to change so much about rock and roll.
Well, I wish it was longer, but Jim only lasted for 6 years, unfortunately. But, we got a lot done in those 6 years. Six albums, which most groups today would take 20 years to make,
Yeah.
All that done in that short span of time. It was pretty amazing.
It's absolutely remarkable. And you guys are being honored this weekend. Is it bittersweet? Does it feel great to you? Is it a feeling of pride?
About the Grammy thing?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird. It's like, why didn't we ever get one before, I mean, But you know why? In those days, in the 60s, Grammys were not given out for rock and roll.
No.
Not very much. So,
They were given to Burt Bacharach and Frank Sinatra back then.
Exactly. Which was fine, but, it was a different time. And but they saw the error of their ways, and so they're catching up.
Mm-hmm. Does it still mean as much?
Oh, I think so. I mean, the Grammys, awards in general are not, I don't think it's too much of the whole thing, It's like kind of stroking yourself, and it's like a hype, a media hype type thing as far as I'm concerned. But I'll take one.
Mm-hmm. How do you think you guys would have reacted receiving one back then? Like, I picture Jim doing something absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's a good question, But I can't tell you because he's not here, and, I hate to put words in what Jim would have done, you know what I'm saying? But I'm sure it would have been different, something different than your ordinary acceptation of a Grammy.
Absolutely. And I've heard great stories, from Corey notably, about crazy concert that was performed at the Whiskey back in November. And all these new rock bands and new rock singers paying tribute to you guys and begging to play with you guys. Do you see your influence when you see those guys up on stage?
Yeah, of course. Other bands have been influenced by the Doors for a long time, and it hasn't seemed to stop. I mean, and of course, other bands influenced us at the time. I mean, that's a natural thing, But it's definitely nice for somebody to say, "Hey, I was influenced by you guys,"
Absolutely. I remember reading an article in Rolling Stone written by Marilyn Manson saying the first and only influence I will ever own up to is the Doors.
Is that right?
For the theatrics and the badass side. And that's when I realized that your influence was like far beyond musical. And more of a way of thinking, way of playing, way of acting. You kind of brought theater, I guess, to rock and roll.
I guess you could say that. we never thought of it that way when we were playing. We just played what we played, and I think other people have put labels on it and stuff like that. But it was, we were very theatrical, I guess you could say. I mean, the way Jim kind of came across was theatrical, even though it's really how he was. He wasn't putting on an act. He was that's how he was in reality. So, I mean, I guess that's the best kind of theatrics, is to be yourself, and if that's what you really like, then that really comes over good.
Come across larger than life. Was your life big enough to base a movie on, as he would say, right?
Right, exactly. And Marilyn Manson did one of our songs a while ago. There was a tribute album, a Doors tribute album, and he did, I believe it was 5 to 1, and he did a great version of 5 to 1, but somehow it didn't get on the record. But I'm sure it'll be on your internet pretty soon.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because, I mean, 5 to 1, and especially your guitar solo, has been mimicked in Pearl Jam songs and has been sampled in Jay-Z rap songs. Right. Are you even aware of those things when they happen? Do you listen to them? Do you say, yeah, I don't know how that ended up being sampled?
No, we are aware of that stuff, and because of the publishing,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, sometimes I don't care about stuff, but that type of stuff I do care about, and I think I take it as a compliment when somebody samples our stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm not crazy about all of the stuff that has been done using Doors songs, but some of it is cool.
Yeah, and you can't control all of it.
Well, I don't know if you can actually say no, you can't use that. I mean, you could if maybe if they didn't pay you or something, but I don't know. I really don't know how that works.
And when you look back on the body of work that you guys produced, what is your best memory? What is the album you feel most proud of, or the song that you say, you know what, that was when we were at our peak. That was the best.
Well, I think the song "L.A. Woman" was, for me, that was, because that was at the end, and it's where we culminated too, and who knows where it would have gone after that. But I mean, that particular song, "L.A. Woman," I think was a great Doors song because of the way it came about. We were just playing in the studio one day, and the song just kind of manifested itself. It wasn't like, okay, I've got the song that I wrote in the bathroom or something like that, and let's put some words to it or something, which is how a lot of them came about. But that particular one, it was like it was almost as if by magic, a bunch of guys that have been playing together for 5 years come together in the studio and start playing, and out comes "L.A. Woman," the song.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the way a rock and roll song should be born.
And there was that song has become such a definitive LA song. And I don't know, I always found there was a very symbiotic relationship between the Doors and the concept or the city or the idea of LA.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's so, you guys are so intrinsically linked,
Right. Well, Jim always used to say that LA is, I mean, when the Pilgrims came over, they came to New York and that area, and then it kind of spread out to the west, so the West is the best, okay, and because the West is the latest, the West is the last part that got colonized, I suppose, and from standing on the beach in L.A., looking out over the sunset, I mean, that's pretty cool.
It doesn't get any better than that, especially if there's Doors songs playing in the background,
Right, exactly.
Or whatnot. And I hear you're writing a book, reminiscing on the whole Doors experience.
Well, I'm starting to. Yeah, I think you know, I don't know when it's going to come out, but because, you know, other people have gotten in trouble writing books about the Doors, so I'm a little reticent about it, but I'm definitely going to do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What prompted you to say this is the right time to do it?
You know, so many people are saying, well, when are you going to write the book? When are you going to write your book, you know? So I finally said, yeah, they're right, I should do it.
Mm-hmm. And
before I forget too many of the stories and stuff, you know.
do you, have you kept a sort of a diary, a log, a journal? Were you the type of person that did back then? Because, I mean, as you were writing...
Absolutely not, no. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff, you know. I never even kept memorabilia, you know, which is a bummer because the Hall of Fame wants to do a thing on the Doors this year. Yeah. And, you know, they came to my house and they, well, what do you got, you know? Nothing.
Nothing?
Hardly anything. I mean, it's pretty terrible. A couple of guitars, you know, from back then. Not, you know, none of the clothes are, I haven't kept any clothes, hardly any clippings or nothing, you know, because I'm just not a pack rat type person, you know. And who knew that, you know, people were going to care about the Doors at this late date, you know? So I figured onward, you know.
Wow, that's admirable, but at the same time, it's very surprising because you guys have had not, you know, some bands have one comeback. You guys have had like a gazillion. Like you came back in the 80s, and then with the movie in the 90s, and now with this, you know, it's like every decade there's a Doors resurgence, resurrection.
I guess so, huh? Well, it's, you know, it's nice to have a resurrection every once in a while. But the Doors, I think, what it is like every 10 years or so, there's some kids that kind of discover the Doors again, you know, and maybe their parents were into it, or maybe
maybe their parents weren't into it, and that's why it's so cool to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. But somehow it happens. Every generation gets turned on to the Doors, and it's great for us. And you know, somehow the music still holds up every generation, and that's the best compliment you can have.
Absolutely. And being from Montreal, when you guys come to Montreal and play the Molson Center or whatever, it's still a very, very big deal. Yeah. And the last time, I remember people being very skeptical before showing up and then being just completely blown away.
Yeah.
What is the feeling different when you played the songs, you know, again and again these days, 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later? Does it get different? Does the emotion come from a different place?
Not really. I mean, it's the same for me. You know, I mean, you know, okay, it's not Jim Morrison up there singing, but you know, the songs are the songs, and they'll never change. You know, and it's like, you know, like you can go downtown here to the Disney Center or wherever and hear a Mozart concert or you know, Beethoven or whoever, you know, 300 years later, and you know, okay, it's not him playing the stuff, but the music is still there, and that'll never die, you know. And you know, it's just great to play Doors songs. You know, for a long time I didn't play Doors songs because I was into you know, fusion and stuff like that, and I figured nobody really wants to hear Doors songs, you know, after Jim is gone. And but I was wrong, you know, because more and more people started saying, "Hey, come on, play some Doors songs, you know. Why don't you and Ray and John get back together?" More and more I was hearing this, and so finally, about 5 years ago, Ray and I got back together, and we started playing, and we haven't stopped since.
Yeah, and I hope you don't count on it. I hope you don't count on stopping.
Not me.
That's good. And
as long as people still want to come, you know, I think we'll play because, you know, we owe it to the fans who love the Doors, and you know, I just wish John would get with the program and play with us, you know.
Yeah, it's a weird thing when there's a missing piece, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we already have too much of a missing piece, you know, with Jim gone, so. You know, I think, you know, these fans, they really love the Doors, and you know, we try to do everything we can to keep them that way.
Do you think the weekend could maybe be a good omen? Patch
I hope
things
so.
up?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the lyrics for LA Woman up there on the poster.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about that song just coming together.
Uh-huh.
You being such an important part in the writing of the most, anthemic of Doors songs, Light My Fire, can you give me a glimpse of what you were thinking when you wrote that?
Light My Fire?
Do you remember where you were, what you were doing?
Well, I was thinking about, I hadn't written any songs yet, for the Doors, and Jim had written all the songs. And then, so Jim says, why don't you guys try to write some too, because we don't have enough songs, So I figured, well, if I'm going to write something, better be pretty heavy duty to, so it'll coincide with Jim's stuff. And so I said, okay, I'll write something about the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, or water. And I picked fire, mainly because I like the song Play with Fire by the Stones, So I figured, okay, I'll write some fire song.
Wow. And then it came.
Yeah, I mean, and when I write a song, it's always the music that comes first, and then the lyrics come afterwards. So I just came up with some chords and stuff, and the words kind of came to me.
And then the song just becomes this. But do you feel at one point when a song becomes so huge and surpasses so many generations, it's sort of out of your hands, or?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, when you have a kid, you have a kid, and then he's 5 years old, and you can kind of mold him and stuff, but then pretty soon you got to let him go, And, after Jose Feliciano did Light My Fire, at first I hated it, because I thought, oh man, that's MOR, that's too, it's not rock, But the more I heard it, the more I liked it, because he did some great guitar stuff in there, and then pretty soon other people started doing it, and they all did it kind of like he did it, because I don't know why, but I guess it was easier to do it that way or whatever. But it really became like a standard, your hit
lounge
standard
song.
elevator music, stuff like that. But that's okay, because that means it's out there. And the amazing thing to me was that Light My Fire not only made the career of the Doors happen, but it also made the career of Jose Feliciano happen. And that with not only that, but it was with 2 totally different arrangements of the same song. That shows the power of that song.
It is. It is a very, very powerful song. And do you think the perception of the Doors changed after the movie came out for the new fans that discovered the Doors at that point?
Changed from what? I mean, I think a lot of the people that saw that movie didn't really know much about the Doors at all. So to them, that was what the Doors were, which is a little unfortunate. But I think it was a good movie as far as I was concerned, and Val Kilmer did a great job playing Jim, and which was lucky, because it could have been John Travolta, which I mean, I'm not saying I don't like John Travolta's
no, I know
acting,
what you mean,
but I'm saying Val really became Jim as far as I'm concerned, and I mean, we called him Jim on the set, you know what I'm saying? And he, he just really got the whole demeanor of the way Jim talks and everything, which is pretty neat.
Is there?
And he sang those songs. He sang 90% of the songs live.
Yeah, he did a really good job. Is there anybody right now in rock and roll that you think has the same spirit, the same fervor, the same craziness as Jim Morrison had?
No, sorry. I wish there was somebody, and I'm waiting for the next somebody,
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Absolutely. Do you guys still miss him when you play?
Oh, hell yes, every day, I wish he was here, because when Jim was around, there was always something going on, It was like excitement, You never knew what was going to happen next. And after he was gone, it was things got a little boring, if I must say.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't know how much I'd miss him until he was gone. You know.
Definitely. Have other bands ever come to you for solace or guidance? Like, I'm thinking when you're talking about this, what echoes in my generation would be, you know, the guys from the Foo Fighters coming to see you and say, we don't know how to deal with the loss of our singer. Have you ever kind of had bands come to you for advice?
As far as losing singer-wise, no, not really, not really. But, you know, bands have come to us and just, you know, what was he like, you know?
For sure.
You know? And, you know, advice like that, you know.
You guys are the only key to the mystery, I think, for a lot of people.
I think so.
You know?
I remember when we did the Hall of Fame back in the 90s, and Eddie Vedder was, you know, sang with it. He cornered me for about an hour and just, you know, grilled me about Jim, you know. What was he like, you know?
Wow. Yeah, well, you've given me some insight today, definitely.
Good.
And at the risk of repeating myself, it's been an incredible honor. So thank you very much.
Thanks for coming all the way to Los Angeles from Montreal. And I hope to, well, in fact, we are going to come up to Canada in April, I believe.
I remember you used to come with your band. You used to play Point Claire,
right.
Robbie Krieger.
Well, this will be Riders on the Storm with Ray and I, and it's going to be great.
Who's going to be singing?
The same guy who's been singing with us from the Cult, Ian Astbury. Yeah.
Excellent.
And he's great. He really is. I mean, if you have any doubts about, you know, wow, who are they going to get to play Jim? You know, this guy is really great. I mean, and it's not like he's copying Jim or, you know, his voice is not exactly like Jim, but he gets it across in his own way, you know, which is even better, I think.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and have a good time on the weekend.
Well, you too. I hope are you guys coming?
Of course.
Of course.
We will be there.
Be there on the red carpet?
Yeah. Tomorrow night.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.